Good evening.
All my fellow panelists, I've been waiting very patiently to all of them. So I hope I'll be given of a couple of minutes. Navika, as they say, a picture speaks 1,000 words. Clips that you have shown, they speak a million. If I can paraphrase a famous speech from Hubli, the Vindhya, Jahangir Puri, the Aravalis, stones are being, and we can't do anything. Now, I request from next time onward, Navika,
Give me the first chance to respond because जैसे जैसे टाइम गुजरता जाता है वैसे वैसे मेरे फेलो पैनलिस्ट इतना झूठ बोलते जाते हैं कि आई हैव टू रिबट देम और उसमें मेरे फिर भी मैं मिस्टर कृष्णा और शोएब जमाई माय गुड फ्रेंड उनका जरा लाइव रिबट करना चाहूंगा। ये मिस्टर कृष्णा जो कह रहे हैं कि ये पहले नहीं होता था। अगर आप एनसीआरबी का डेटा देखें तो अभी 50,000 कम्युनल इंसिडेंट्स होते हैं पर ईयर। From the 70s to the 80s to the 90s, there used to be 1 lakh communal instances per year. And as far as my dear friend Shoaib Jamai is concerned, जो ये टोपी दिखा रहे हैं बीजेपी की है, by that logic नाविका ये देखिए ये मैंने पहना हुआ है, तो इससे क्या मैं शेख हो गया? ये पहन के मैं शेख हो गया या मैं आनंद रंगनाथन हूँ? बहरहाल मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि नाविका, do we have to be politically correct or do we have to say I'm going to
what the truth is, if people mind, let them mind. तो इसमें मैं आपकी वीडियोस में दो चीजें, और यही हमारे देश की ट्रेजेडी है। आप इसको इग्नोरेंस कहिए या कुछ भी कहिए। जो हिंदू बोल रहा है इस वीडियो में, चाचा चाचा ये क्या कर रहे हो, वो हिंदू को ये नहीं पता है कि चाचा thinks that polytheists are the worst of creatures, 98.6 कि चाचा says that if you disbelieve in our verses we will roast you in hell, 456। और वो मुस्लिम बच्ची कह रही है, मामा रमजान के महीने में आप पत्थरबाजी कर रहे हो, ये क्या कर रहे हो? उस बेचारी मुस्लिम बच्ची को ये नहीं पता कि इन द मंथ ऑफ रमजान all the greatest Islamic conquests have taken place from Al-Badr to Makkah to Zalaka to Hatim from 2006 to 2015. Every Ramzan day there were 15 terror attacks. तो हम इग्नोरेंस में ये जानते नहीं है कि हमारे देश में हो क्या रहा है। लेकिन फाइनली मैं एक बात अपने गुड फ्रेंड गौरव भाटिया के बारे में कहना चाहूंगा और उनसे पूछना चाहूंगा। नाविका, जैसे मैंने शुरू किया, हर जगह ये अटैक्स हो रहे हैं, हर जगह। लेकिन एक देश है, एक स्टेट है रादर, अभी तो स्टेट ये देश नहीं होना चाहिए, दो है रादर, जहां पे कंबाइंड मुस्लिम पॉपुलेशन 55 मिलियन है, यूपी और असम। वहां पे कंबाइंड 957 शोभा यात्रा निकाली गई पिछले हफ्ते, 957। एक पत्थर नहीं फेंका गया। गौरव भाटिया, प्लीज रिस्पॉन्ड। द नेशन इज आस्किंग, बीजेपी वोटर्स आर आस्किंग कि यूपी और असम में ऐसा क्या खास है जो गुजरात में नहीं है, जो बीजेपी रूल कर्नाटका में नहीं है। यूपी और असम में एक भी पत्थर क्यों नहीं फेंका गया जहां पे 60 मिलियन मुस्लिम्स रहते हैं? आंसर। शोएब भाई, आपने जो फोटो दिखाई है, गौरव जी ने वो फोटो दिखाई है, इसमें आपका वो है। सो अनलेस यू कैन कंफर्म वेदर ही इज अ कार्यकर्ता ऑफ बीजेपी और अ कार्यकर्ता ऑफ आप, माय लॉजिक स्टैंड्स। कल को मैंने अरविंद केजरीवाल ने वो स्कल कैप पहनी है, वो मुस्लिम थोड़ा ना हो गए। So that is irrelevant to the discussion that Navika is having. Number one, Shoaib bhai, please, I didn't interrupt. Mera time.
Shoaib, fade her down. Allow him to complete. Yeah. Allow him to complete his point.
Yes. And very briefly, I really respect Gaurav bhai. He's like my younger brother. He looks like my elder brother. But I'm afraid his arguments are all really thin ice. Because what he's saying is, when I asked him, when I asked him, when he knows that the law and order in Delhi is under the BJP Shah, he took the name of Kejriwal saying he's anarchist. Shall I give him the data of 2012 to 2017? Every Ram Navami Yatra in UP was disrupted by stone pelting. Who was the government? Who were the people? I can say they were also anarchists. It was Samajwadi Party government. Azam Khan भी वहां था। अब वो शांत क्यों हैं? अब अनार्किस्ट दिल्ली में शांत नहीं है, लेकिन अनार्किस्ट यूपी में शांत क्यों है? ये गौरव जी ने आंसर नहीं किया। As I said that, I think we are living in a world that tries to, be politically correct all the time without realizing that as, hardly a century ago, our great leaders like Ambedkar and Tagore, they made political and other commentaries on all the world's great religions. And they criticize them left, right, and center. But today, if they were to do that same, they'll be the first one either behind bars or beheaded. This is the situation we're living in. There is a huge price to pay for telling the truth. And this goes for all political parties. I challenge Gauravji, who's sitting there, to say that terrorism has religion. No, he will say terrorism is no religion. The fact of the matter is that you have the highest echelon, upper echelons of BJP who've never even commented upon the Palghar Sadhu's lynching. So everyone is trying to be politically correct. We have to accept it. We have to accept that Congress will not talk about Congress will not talk about namaz on the roads, but they will say there should be no Hanuman Yatras or Ram Navami Yatras on the roads. We have to accept it.
You heard the two polar opposites, the BJP taking on the AM. Where do you come in on this?
Good evening, Rahul, and good evening to all my fellow panelists. You know, I don't know whether to be amused or aghast at the behavior of two arms of our state, the judiciary and the legislature. Let me first address the judiciary. This is the same Supreme Court, Rahul, that 2 years ago rejected reopening of cases pertaining to the crimes committed against Kashmiri Hindus because in its view, too much time had elapsed. Justice was weighed against time. Elapsed time was considered elapsed justice. But here it wakes up. This is the same court that allowed illegal blockage to continue for a full year, leading to massive loss of life and money. Rahul, now I'm always for following the law. And it doesn't matter if thousands of illegal structures still stand while mine is demolished, because unequal application of law can never be an excuse to violate that law. But this case reeks of judicial ineptitude, given that there are more iniquities in India than there are legal ones. Now the legislature. Bulldozing rioters' home, and I've said this before, is in my view against natural justice, because even if you want to punish the rioter by demolishing his home, I'm talking about home particularly, you are punishing also his family, wife and children who are innocent. You can't transfer guilt or culpability in a crime to a relative. That's against natural justice too. Even if the government is saying that the property is being demolished or on encroached land, that still is illegal and against natural justice, because demolishing a home, even if illegal, has to be done after adequate notice according to the High Court, as life and livelihood are at stake. And you violate the 2018 Vishwanath versus BMC High Court judgment stipulating a 15-day minimum notice. And I'm not even going into the fact of double standards here, Rahul, of the government sitting idle and doing nothing about illegal encroachments and suddenly waking up to them. In fact, no government has legalized illegal encroachments more than the BJP and taken pride in this. On 23rd October 2019, the Modi government gave ownership rights to 4 million people living in unauthorized colonies in Delhi. 4 million. Suddenly, 1 million encroachments were made legal. This despite the 2019 same year July Supreme Court judgment wherefrom I now quote, legalizing unauthorized colonies in Delhi is totally unfair to law-abiding people. Tomorrow, anyone will encroach land and you will legalize this. So basically, the state is the Maibap, unquote. It can do whatever it wants, Rahul. And today it is telling its citizen, you can encroach on as much government land as you wish, and we will turn a blind eye so long as you don't pelt stones or riot. I'm telling you, one of these days, harried taxpayer citizens like you and me, fed up of encroachments, will probably deliberately instigate a riot so that the government comes and demolishing the encroachment. Just 30 seconds, Rahul. So while I agree that the rioters have to be brought to book and fear instilled in them, punishing them and their innocent families through demolishing their homes is not natural justice and is not legally what I have. Just 10 seconds. My good friend Shehzad began his monologue by saying कि पत्थर फेंकना सेकुलर है, लेकिन दगाइयों पे बुलडोजर चलाना कॉम्युनल है. So he has to clarify whether this demolition drive was routine or this was done to punish the rioters. Because in Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh, it has been declared danke ki chot pe कि we are sending in bulldozers to punish the rioters. यहाँ पे is the BJP backtracking? It has to clarify.
Dr. Ranganathan, just one question. You know, I completely agree most times with what you say. And it is always interesting to hear your perspectives. Yes, of course, viewers, and we must remember this. If, and in this particular case, if, a big one, if due process has not been followed, strip the MCD corporators, bulldoze their homes after giving them a notice and a show cause. No problems. But you said that, you know, only if you throw stones in this country will your homes be demolished. Can I ask you a small question? In BJP's ruled Gujarat, where Hindu temples encroaching on public land were demolished, were they only done so after Hindus pelted stones?
Rahul, I didn't say that if you demolish stones, your house, only if you do that, your houses will be demolished. What I said was that the state overlooks the fact that there are millions and millions of these illegal encroachments. So it is saying to the people that we are going to allow this as long as you don't commit a riot or pelt stones. If you do,
so that's
then
what I'm
we will
asking.
suddenly wake up and demolish.
So I'm asking, because you see everything is looked through a communal prism today. So I'm asking, this principle was not applied by the BJP-ruled state government of Gujarat when it demolished Hindu temples. These temples were demolished because they came in the way of public commerce.
Yes.
Simple.
Yes.
So,
and that is why it is very important, Rahul, that you quoted the 2010 High Court judgment.
Precisely.
Because I made a distinction between homes. That's why I was particularly quoting the homes versus the shops and the roadside, taking over a road.
I'm glad you clarified that. Yes, Doctor.
Rahul, I have said it before and I'll say it again. As the case is, Hindus and non-Muslims are living on borrowed time. I'm not trying to, or neither will I strive to reinvent the wheel here. If you remember last time there was this case about 2.5 years ago in Bangalore, where a Dalit, that too a nephew of a Congress leader, was almost beheaded. There were riots, large-scale riots in Bangalore because allegedly he had blasphemed. When I quoted the verse, my Twitter account was blocked for about 15 days. After that, Twitter had to apologize to me. So yet again, we don't want to fall into this whole morass of sparing the fundamentals, but snaring the fundamentalists. As long as we are going to be politically correct, we are never going to address this question. And someone can call me a bigot, but is it bigotry to quote the verses? Let me quote the verses on blasphemy, because I heard in the video people saying, Gustakh-e Rasool ki ek hi saza, sar tan se juda, sar tan se juda. So let me quote. Those who abuse Allah and His Messenger, Allah has cursed them in this world and the hereafter and prepared for them a humiliating punishment, 3357. Indeed, the penalty for those who wage war and abuse against Allah and His Messenger and strive upon earth to cause corruption is none, but that they be killed or crucified, or that their hands and feet be cut off from opposite sides, or that they be exiled from the land. That is for them a disgrace in this world, and for them in the hereafter a great punishment, 533. Now, am I a bigot? Am I? I leave that to you and to your viewers.